The void, outside Solara Outpost, was usually quiet. Deep black, sprinkled with the steady cold light of distant stars. Cale traced the smudged outline of a nebula on the main view screen, a smear of cosmic paint against the darkness. He yawned. Another cycle ticked by on the station clock, maintenance checks, system diagnostics, the endless, peaceful hum of life support. Solara was a lonely place, perched far out on the Cygnus edge, a tiny bubble of warmth and light, miles from anywhere important. Cale liked the quiet most days, but sometimes, like now, the silence felt heavy. It felt like waiting for something, anything, to break the monotony. He adjusted his worn uniform jacket, the fabric soft from countless washes. He was young, barely 20 standard years, assigned here as a junior communications tech. It wasn't glamorous. Mostly he relayed cargo schedules and weather reports for the few freighters that bothered stopping by. He sighed, tapping a finger on the console. Maybe he should request a transfer closer to the core worlds. See some real action, or at least some different stars. Suddenly, the quiet shattered. Alarms blared, sharp and insistent. Red lights pulsed across the bridge, painting the familiar gray walls in urgent strokes. Cale jumped, his heart pounding against his ribs like a trapped bird. "What is it?" he yelled, spinning towards the main console where Alara, the station commander, was already bent over her controls, her face tight with concentration. Her usually calm gray eyes were wide. "Energy reading," Alara snapped, her voice tense. "Massive, unidentified. Dropping out of warp right on top of us." On the main screen, the familiar starfield ripped open, not like a ship entering warp, a clean tear and gone. This was different. Reality itself seemed to shudder, colors bleeding into each other like wet paint. A wave of dizziness washed over Cale, making the floor tilt beneath his feet. He gripped the edge of his console. Around him, other crew members stumbled, groaning. It felt like the station itself was being squeezed. Then, as quickly as it began, the distortion vanished. The alarms cut off, leaving a ringing silence. The red lights stopped flashing, replaced by the steady white emergency illumination. Floating in the void where the distortion had been was a ship. It was huge, far bigger than any vessel Cale had ever seen, dwarfing Solara Outpost. Its hull was a patchwork of dark, unfamiliar metals, scarred and pitted as if it had flown through hell itself. Sections looked impossibly old, ancient, while others shimmered with an unsettling newness, light bending strangely around them. It bore no markings Cale recognized, no registry, no faction symbols. But there was something else, something achingly familiar in its blocky, functional design, hidden beneath the scars and the weirdness. "Scan it," Alara ordered, her voice barely a whisper. "Identify." Data scrolled across Cale's screen. Energy signatures unlike anything in the known database. Material composition unknown. Life signs inconclusive. No. They were there, but scrambled, phasing in and out of sensor range. Then, a single clear signal emerged from the chaos. An old emergency beacon, an Earth signal, pre-expansion era. A ghost from centuries ago. "Commander," Cale breathed, his voice trembling slightly. "That ship, it's human. Ancient human. It's broadcasting an old Sol system emergency code. The signature matches the Wanderer." A collective gasp went through the small bridge crew. The Wanderer. Every human child grew up hearing the stories. One of the very first interstellar colony ships launched from Earth centuries ago. It had vanished without a trace on its maiden voyage. Lost somewhere in the vast emptiness between stars. Presumed destroyed. A legend. A ghost story whispered in simulator classes. And now it was here, floating silently outside their tiny outpost. But how? And why did it look like that? Why did reality itself seem to bend around it? The ship wasn't just old, it felt fundamentally wrong, like looking at a picture that kept changing details every time you blinked. Cale felt a prickle of fear mixed with awe. The lost ship had returned, but it hadn't come back empty-handed. It had brought something back with it, something that warped the stars. Before anyone could process the impossible return, another alarm screamed. This one was different, sharper, more menacing. "Multiple warp signatures," shouted the tactical officer Jax. "Closing fast, non-human configuration." Xalar warships. On the tactical display, angry red icons bloomed, converging on their position. The Xylar. Kael's blood ran cold. The Xylar Collective, a species known for their cold logic, their rigid order, and their utter intolerance for anything they deemed chaotic or unpredictable. They rarely ventured this far out, preferring their meticulously controlled territories closer to the galactic core. Why were they here? And why now? Then Kael understood. They weren't here for Solara Outpost. They were here for the Wanderer. They must have detected the same reality-bending energy spike that had nearly shaken the station apart, and to the Xylar, something that could warp reality was the ultimate chaos. The ultimate threat. Commander, Jax reported, his knuckles white on his console. They're hailing us. Standard Xylar frequencies. Visual channel open. Alara straightened her shoulders, her face becoming a mask of authority. On screen, the main view screen split. One half showed the impossible, scarred hull of the Wanderer. The other showed the face of a Xylar. It was humanoid in basic shape, but tall and unnaturally thin. Its skin was smooth, pale gray, like polished stone. It had large dark eyes without pupils, reflecting the bridge lights like obsidian pools. It wore a simple high-collared uniform of shimmering silver. There was no expression on its face. No anger, no curiosity, just cold, calculating assessment. This is Commander Vorlon of the Xylar Collective Purity Fleet. The alien's voice echoed through the bridge. The sound was synthesized, perfectly modulated, without inflection, like a machine reading a script. You are harboring a spatial anomaly designated Threat Omega. Surrender the vessel known as Wanderer immediately for containment and purification. Non-compliance will be interpreted as collusion with chaotic forces and will result in terminal sanction. Alara met the Zaidi Luller's empty gaze. Commander Vorlon, this is Commander Alara of Solara Outpost, representing the Terran Alliance. The vessel Wanderer is a historically significant human ship. It poses no threat. We require time to assess the situation. Assessment is irrelevant, Vorlon stated flatly. The anomaly's energy signature constitutes an existential risk to structured reality. Its existence is chaos manifest. Delay is unacceptable. You have 5 standard minutes to disable the vessel and prepare it for Xylar acquisition. Failure to comply initiates purification protocol. The screen went blank. 5 minutes. Kael stared at the Wanderer. It just floated there, silent, ancient, impossible. How could they disable it? They didn't even know what it was anymore. How could they fight the Xylar? Solara Outpost was a science and trade station, armed with only basic defensive lasers meant to deter pirates, not a fleet of advanced alien warships. Commander, Jack said, his voice tight. Xylar fleet is deploying drone swarms. Energy weapons charging. Alara looked around the bridge, her gaze lingering on each crew member. Fear was plain on their faces, but also determination. They were humans, stranded on the edge of nowhere, facing impossible odds. It wasn't the first time humanity had been in such a spot. Options, she asked, her voice quiet but firm. We can't fight them, Jax admitted grimly. We can try to evacuate, but they'll likely intercept the escape pods. And the Wanderer? Kael asked, unable to look away from the strange ship. It felt alive, in a way he couldn't explain. Like it was watching them, waiting. We can't let the Xylar have it, Alara said. If it really can do what they think it can, we don't know what they'd do with it, or what destroying it might unleash. She looked at Kalar. Can you talk to it? That beacon, can you send a signal back? Kael nodded slowly, his mind racing. The beacon was ancient tech, but the principles were simple. Maybe whatever was inside the Wanderer could understand. I can try, Commander, but I don't know what protocols it uses now, or if anything is even listening. Try, Alara ordered. Try anything. Buy us time. Kael turned back to his console, his fingers flying over the controls. He isolated the Wanderer's faint beacon signal, analyzing its archaic structure. He needed to send something simple, something undeniably human. Not a complex data packet, but a feeling, a plea. Thought about Earth, about the stories of the Wanderer's launch, the hope and dreams packed into its hull. He thought about the fear tightening his own chest, The cold logic of the Zalair. The impossible situation. He focused all of it, his messy, contradictory human emotions, into a simple pulse sequence. A question. Who are you? We need help. He keyed it into the old protocol format, and hit. For a moment, nothing happened. The Zyva ships continued their advance, their weapon ports glowing ominously. The timer ticked down. 3 minutes left. Then, the Wanderer responded. Not with a radio signal. The ship itself seemed to sigh. A low thrum vibrated through Solara Outpost, felt deep in Kale's bones. On his screen, the Wanderer's energy signature pulsed, a soft, warm glow replacing the chaotic phasing, and then, a message appeared on his console. Not text, not data. It was a feeling, a sense of immense age, profound loneliness, and a cautious, tentative welcome. It felt like an old, tired mind slowly waking up. And then, text flickered into existence below the feeling. Simple words in archaic English. We hear. We are wanderer. Lost. Found. Different. Now. What is Zeller? Kala's breath caught. It was listening. It was aware. Commander. It responded. It's asking. It's asking. What the Zelara? Alara stared at the screen. Then at the approaching Zolair fleet. Tell it, she said, her voice filled with a sudden desperate hope. Tell it, they're the enemy. Tell it, they want to destroy it. Because it's different. Because they fear what they don't understand. Kale typed quickly, his fear forgotten, replaced by a strange connection to the ancient ship. He described the Zolair, their rigid order, their fear of chaos, their threat. He poured his own feelings into the message. The injustice, the danger, the need to survive. They fear change. They fear us. They fear you. The Wanderer seemed to absorb the information. The low thrumming intensified slightly. The strange shimmer around its hull deepened. Colors swirling within it like oil on water. Fear, order, control. We remember similar. Long ago, different stars. They failed. Then, another wave of energy washed out from the Wanderer. But this time, it wasn't dizzying. It felt focused, directed. Kalal watched in astonishment as the Zelar drone swarms, which had been flying in perfect rigid formation, suddenly faltered. Their movements became jerky, erratic. Some drones spun wildly out of control, colliding with each other. Others simply stopped, tumbling uselessly in space. On the Zalar command ship, Vorlon watched the chaotic display on his view screen, his dark eyes betraying no emotion. But the slight tightening of his thin fingers on his console spoke volumes. Report, he demanded in his synthesized voice. Drone guidance systems malfunctioning. Commander, a Zolair technician reported tonelessly. External interference detected. Source the anomaly. It is disrupting probability vectors related to drone navigation. Disrupting probability. Vorlon tilted his head almost imperceptibly. Such a concept was illogical. Probability was a mathematical calculation, not a field to be manipulated. This anomaly was more dangerous than anticipated. Ignore the drones. Target the anomaly directly. Main weapons. Fire on my mark. Energy signatures spiked on the Zelar warships. Jax paled. Commander. They're targeting the Wanderer. Heavy energy cannons. Wanderer. Kale sent urgently. They're going to fire. The Wanderer pulsed again. Probability is choice. Belief. Zylar choose rigidity. Easy to bend. Then, something impossible happened. The space between the Zolar ships and the Wanderer seemed to ripple, like heat haze over a desert road. As the Zolar cannons fired, streaks of blinding energy lashed out towards the ancient ship. But they didn't hit. Some beams veered wildly off course, missing by impossible margins. Others seemed to simply fizzle out, dissolving into harmless sparks halfway to their target. It was as if the Zolar weapons suddenly forgot how to shoot straight, or as if the universe itself decided they were more likely to miss than hit. Cal laughed, a short, surprised bark of disbelief. They missed. They all missed. Alara stared, her mouth slightly open. How? We offered a different path. The Wanderer sent to Kyle, a reality where their certainty failed. They accepted. Varlan watched the weapons discharge harmlessly into the void. His processors struggled to reconcile the visual data with the known laws of physics. Recalibrate targeting sensors, he ordered calmly. Focus fire. The Solar fired again, and again. Each time the result was the same. Wild misses, fizzling beams. It was ludicrous. It defied all logic. Yet, it was happening. Commander, the Zyra weapons officer reported, his voice gaining a microscopic edge of something that might have been confusion if Zyra experienced such things. Targeting solutions are optimal. Weapon systems functioning within parameters. Yet impacts register 0 probability. 0 probability. Vorline processed the statement. It was illogical. Impossible. Yet the anomaly persisted. Its chaotic influence was stronger, more insidious than imagined. It wasn't just warping space. It was warping causality itself. This could not be allowed. Prepare the primary purification field, Vorline commanded. If direct fire is ineffective, we will sterilize this entire sector of chaotic influence. A new energy signature began building from the Zilar command ship, far larger than the weapon discharges. A field generator, designed to destabilize complex energy patterns, to essentially unravel anything deemed unnatural or chaotic. It was a weapon of last resort, indiscriminate and absolute. Commander, Jack shouted. Massive energy surge from the lead Zydlar ship. It looks like a reality destabilization field. It could tear this whole area apart, including us. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced Kale's awe. This was different. This wasn't just weapons fire. This was an attack on reality itself. He relayed the warning to the Wanderer. They are using a field. It will unravel everything. The Wanderer's response was slower this time. It felt tired, concerned. Order against chaos. A familiar battle. But their order is brittle, based on denial. Denial of possibilitia. Denial of feeling. Humans, you do not deny feeling. Kale thought about the fear, the hope, the desperation swirling on the bridge. He thought about his own jumbled emotions. No, humans definitely didn't deny feeling. They wallowed in it, fought for it, died for it. Human feeling is strong. The Wanderer sent, stronger than rigid logic. Can you share it, focus it, believe with us? Share feeling, believe. Kyle didn't understand how. Commander, Alara, Kale said, turning from his console. The Wanderer, it says the Zele field is based on denial. Denial of feeling, of possibility. It says human feeling is stronger. It wants us to believe, focus our feelings. Alara looked at him, then at the growing energy signature of the Zoller weapon. She looked at the terrified, resolute faces of her crew. Humans. Stubborn. Emotional. Unpredictable. Maybe the ancient ship was right. What did they have to lose? Open a channel, she ordered. Station-wide. Audio only. Kayla patched the command through. Alara took a deep breath. Her voice, amplified through the station speakers, was clear and steady, though Kayla could hear the underlying tremor. This is Commander Alara. To all personnel on Solara Outpost. You see the Solara fleet. You know their reputation. They believe emotion, individuality, everything that makes us human, is chaos to be purged. They are preparing a weapon to destroy, not just the Wanderer, not just us, but the very possibility of things being different. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Outside sits a ship from old Earth. The Wanderer. It has returned with something new. Something the Zolid fear. It tells us their strength, their cold order, is brittle. It tells us our feelings, our hopes, our fears, our stubborn refusal to give up, have power. It asks us to believe, to focus that messy, unpredictable, human spirit. I don't know how this works, but I know who we are. We are human. We feel, we hope, we endure. Focus on that. Focus on survival. Focus on defiance. Focus on the idea that their cold certainty cannot be the only reality. Pour your heart into it. Let the Wanderer know we stand with it. Let the universe know we are here. Silence followed her words. Then, Kyle felt it. A subtle shift in the station's atmosphere. Not physical. Something else. A shared current of emotion. Fear, yes. But also anger, determination. a stubborn refusal to be erased. He saw Jax gripping his console, jaw clenched. He saw Alara standing tall, her eyes fixed on the Wanderer. He felt his own heart pounding, not just with fear, but with a fierce, burning hope. He closed his eyes, adding his own feelings to the flow. We are here. We will not break. On Cal's console, the Wanderer's energy signature flared, brighter than ever. It absorbed a wave of raw human emotion pouring from the small outpost. The swirling colors on its hull intensified, becoming vibrant, almost blinding. The low thrumming became a resonant hum that filled the void. Yes, feeling is reality too. A stronger one. The Zara purification field activated. A wave of shimmering distortion erupted from Vorlon's flagship, expanding outwards. It hit the space around the Wanderer, like water hitting hot metal. Reality hissed and buckled. Kale felt a nauseating lurch, worse than before. Lights flickered violently on the bridge. Metal groaned under impossible stress. But the Wanderer held, more than held. It pushed back, guided by the focused belief and emotion of the humans on Solara, amplified by its own reality-bending core. The Wanderer projected its own field. Not one of negation or destruction, but one of empathy. Possibility. It didn't try to unravel the Zolaire field. It infused it. It took the Zolaire's cold, rigid certainty and forced it to confront what it denied. Feeling, chaos, the infinite possibilities of existence. Inside the Zolaire command ship, the purification field generator strained. Alarms beginning to chime softly. Alarms the Zolaire hadn't thought possible. The technicians stared at their consoles, their usually placid features showing faint traces of bewilderment. The field wasn't failing, it was changing, becoming saturated with illogical, chaotic data patterns that mirrored emotional responses. Vorlon stood rigid, his dark eyes fixed on the Wanderer. He felt something, an unfamiliar pressure behind his eyes, a flicker of something warm and chaotic in his chest, an echo of the fear radiating from the nearby human station. An image flashed in his mind, a memory not his own, of laughter, of tears, of illogical hope against impossible odds. It was alien, confusing, disturbing. He felt a phantom echo of empathy for the humans, a sudden jarring understanding of their terror and defiance. It was intolerable. Commander, his tactical officer queried, the synthesized voice wavering slightly. Field integrity is fluctuating. We are receiving emotional echo feedback. Vorlon raised a hand, silencing him. The alien feeling intensified. Doubt. A concept fundamentally incompatible with Zara's certainty. What if their rigid order wasn't the only valid reality? What if chaos held its own form of strength? What if feeling wasn't a flaw, but a different kind of truth? The thoughts were heretical, dangerous. They threatened the core of his being, the foundation of Zara existence. The Wanderer wasn't just disrupting their technology. It was disrupting their minds, forcing them to experience the very thing they sought to purge. This was not a battle they could win through force or logic. The anomaly fought on a plane they couldn't comprehend, using weapons they couldn't counter: belief, emotion, the stubborn chaos of the human heart. To continue the engagement was to risk contamination, to expose the entire fleet, perhaps the entire collective, to this dangerous empathy, this infectious possibility. Disengage the purification field, Vorlon ordered, his voice perfectly even, betraying none of the turmoil within. Recall all units. Prepare for warp jump. The Zolaire technicians complied instantly, relief subtly evident in the speed of their actions. The oppressive energy field collapsed. The Zolaire warships, which had seemed so menacing moments before, abruptly turned, their formations crisp and logical once more, and warped away, vanishing as quickly as they had arrived, leaving behind only silence, the distant stars, and the impossible ship from old Earth. On the bridge of Solara Outpost, a collective sigh of relief went through the crew. People slumped in their chairs, wiping sweat from their brows. Some laughed shakily. Others were crying quietly. Kale felt drained, utterly exhausted, but exhilarated. He looked at the Wanderer, floating peacefully now, the strange shimmer on its hull softening. They are gone. The Wanderer sent, the feeling behind the words one of immense weariness, but also satisfaction. Their certainty was shaken. Doubt is a seed. It will grow. They just left, Alara murmured, shaking her head in disbelief. They didn't fire again. They just left. She looked at Cal, a newfound respect in her eyes. What did you do? What did it do? Calais tried to explain, fumbling for words. It used their own weapon against them, not by destroying it, but by filling it with feelings, with possibility. Our feelings, he gestured vaguely. It made them feel empathy, I think. Doubt. It showed them a reality based on something other than cold logic. They couldn't handle it. It scared them more than destruction. Alara stared at the Wanderer again. A ship lost for centuries, returned armed not with bigger guns, but with the ability to weaponize hope, to fight with empathy, to bend reality through the power of belief, powered in the end by the messy, unpredictable hearts of a few humans on a lonely outpost. We are tired, the Wanderer said. Long journey, strange paths. We must rest, learn, understand this new time. What happens now? Kale asked softly, directing the question as much to the ship as to his commander. Alara looked out at the Wanderer, then back at her crew, their faces streaked with grime and tears, but their eyes shining. Now, she said, her voice filled with wonder and a touch of fear. We learn too. We have a guest, an old friend with new secrets, and the galaxy just found out that humanity's greatest strength might not be our technology, but our stubborn, illogical, unbreakable spirit. Kale looked back at the Wanderer. It seemed to pulse faintly, a silent acknowledgement. It had traveled across unimaginable gulfs, not just of space, but of reality itself. It had seen things, learned things, become things that humanity was only beginning to grasp. Its return wasn't just the recovery of a lost vessel. It was the dawn of a new era, one where the rules of existence seemed suddenly negotiable. The Xalar had retreated, shaken by a forced glimpse into the human experience, into the power of feeling. They, and likely others across the galaxy, would now look at humanity differently, not as predictable expansionists or resource gatherers, but as wielders of something far more potent and unpredictable, the reality-shaping force of their own inner worlds. The Wanderer began to slowly rotate, revealing sections of its hull that seemed to shimmer out of phase, hinting at the impossible journey it had undertaken. It was a testament to human endurance, changed but recognizable, a relic and a prophecy floating side by side. Kale felt a profound sense of connection to the ancient vessel, a shared understanding forged in the crucible of shared peril and shared feeling. He had touched something vast and strange, and it had touched him back. The silence of space outside Solar Outpost no longer felt empty or monotonous. It felt full of potential, humming with the quiet power that had just turned back a Xalar fleet, without firing a single shot. The universe was wider, weirder, and more wonderful than he had ever imagined. He thought of the Xalar, fleeing back to their rigid, ordered space, carrying the unwelcome seed of doubt, the phantom echo of human emotion. They had come seeking to purge chaos, but instead they had been confronted by the bewildering strength of the human heart. They had learned that day that trying to impose one single, sterile reality on a universe brimming with infinite possibility was not just futile, it was fragile. Humanity, in all its messy, emotional, unpredictable glory, wasn't a bug in the system. It was a feature, maybe the feature. The Wanderer sent one last feeling towards Cal, a sense of quiet companionship, before its energy signature settled into a low, resting state. It hung in the void, a silent guardian, a question mark aimed at the heart of the stars. Cal leaned back in his chair, the adrenaline fading, leaving behind a deep bone weariness and a quiet sense of awe. The galaxy had changed today. Humanity's place in it had changed, and it had all started here, on a lonely outpost at the edge of nowhere, because a lost ship came home, bringing with it the strange truth that belief could bend the stars. Looking out at the ancient, impossible vessel against the endless night, Cal knew one thing for sure. Human hearts were the strangest reality of all.